providing hope for the journey. People with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias are usually cared for by family members or friends. The majority, 80% of people with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, are receiving care in their homes. Each year, more than 16 million Americans provide more than 18.5 billion hours of care. Nearly 6 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease. 10 years ago, the vision for the Caregiver Education Program began by fielding calls and requests from families in the community that were struggling to find solutions for their dementia journey. These calls evolved into a full-service Care Partner education program as a result of an innovative partnership with the Sid W. Richardson Foundation. Over the last decade, more than 56,000 care partners have benefited from this partnership and its foundation of care, support, and education.
My predecessor, Val Wilkie, he developed a relationship with the West Center early on, and with our aging population and personal observation, he knew the importance of the West Center's mission. And so early on, he started discussing with the board and recommending to the board support for the West Center to meet a problem that was a critical need then, but it's a need that's grown every day since then. But the only way to make this work is to enlist friends and family members and really leverage the resources, the expertise, the coaching, the mentoring of the West Center, leveraging the loving caregivers, the family, the friends, the professional caregivers, and giving them the tools. That's the only way we have a chance to keep up with the need.
The West Center's programs and services play a special role in supporting care partners. West Center President CEO Cheryl Harding describes the goal and mission of the Caregiver Education Program.
We feel like we walk along beside that caregiver as we're caring for their loved one. And I believe that that's a model that has been replicated nationally, but not very much. And so I would encourage other providers to look at the way we're doing the work here and to model after us. Education cures a lot of things, bias and fear. Our education program is utilized to give them comfort, to take away that fear, to help them understand the dementia process. But since then, we have expanded it to professional caregivers. And it is free to the community, and which is amazing. And the fact that we've been able to reach 56,000 people or more in a short time, really.
Chosen to lead the West Center's award-winning program is Jamie Cobb Tinsley, a nationally recognized speaker and trainer on the topics of dementia education. The West Center's education program is recognized throughout the healthcare industry as a model for how to teach care partners how to support persons living with dementia and to focus not on what is lost, but rather on what remains.
When we first started creating the initial curriculum, I wanted to really know what the caregivers needed. So I surveyed our previous families and caregivers that we had about what did they really need, what was missing from their journeys they've had. So we got a lot of great feedback from them of what they needed to know, what they wished they knew when they started the journey and throughout the course of the journey, and started creating that curriculum from there and doing a lot of research. So came to the number of 56,000 people have been touched by our education programs. So the number could be a lot larger than that just because the need's out there. I hear it all the time, a family member, oh, can I get a copy of those slides to share with my hairdresser? Because I know they're dealing with it as well. So we may not ever have a direct connection with some families, but we know the information is spreading through our other families that are going through the education as well. The benefit of getting the programs and not having to walk through the doors is huge. And then we started to see the professionals were asking about the training and the skills that they can incorporate in the care for their clients or their patients. And that's grown since, which has also been a huge benefit to our communities. We originally started off with a 6-part series, for caregivers. And today we're looking at a curriculum of over 100 different programs that we can offer to families and professionals.
Dementia and caregiver education is an essential part of the West Center's mission. The care and support of families cannot be overlooked or undervalued. Holly Glover, Director of Education and Family Education Services, as a licensed professional counselor and certified grief counseling specialist.
One of the things we have the honor of doing is to come alongside those family caregivers and to educate them to better take care of themselves so that they then can take care of their loved ones. There's not enough beds in the United States to take care of everyone who has dementia. Over and over again have I heard, I don't know how I would have got through this without that support group. You've become my family. I can come to this group and it's a safe place. I can come to this group and I can cry. This is the place that I can come and I can tell these stories, sometimes that I can't even tell my own family.
Deborah Day interacted with the West Center for over 2 years before she visited the center, all because of how well the center communicated with family caregivers through Zoom, our website, and the massive number of classes taught online.
I came across this phrase, knowledge is power. And when you unpack that phrase, it really makes sense because there's always going to be something about Alzheimer's that you're not going to understand. But if you have any type of idea of the road ahead of you, it's less fearful. And that gives you a sense of power in controlling your emotions for the disease and really helping your loved ones as best you can.
The West Center's history of significance began 30 years ago with the vision of Dr. Janice Knabel and a group of community leaders who envisioned a brighter future for those living with dementia. As the center's founding medical director, Dr. Knabel has been with the West Center since 1993. Dr. Knabel is widely respected as one of the leading subject matter experts on dementia and Alzheimer's disease in America.
There is such an important need for caregiver education for those individuals that will need to be helping support a person with dementia. And in my own clinical practice, whenever I have a patient that I diagnose with dementia and I have their caregiver, their loved one with them, I actually have 2 patients to think about, because if the caregiver is unable or even unwilling to possibly provide that care, the person with dementia will not be able to remain in their own home. So the philosophy of care here at the West Center, because we have no cure, is really on quality of life and joy. So unfortunately, there is so much literature about the risks of caring for a person with dementia on the health of that caregiver.
The West Center continuously teaches caregivers about how to care for themselves because the high stress levels of caregiving for a loved one can jeopardize the quality of life and the health of the caregiver. The West Center has expanded its influence into educational institutions as its leaders help train the next generation of professional caregivers. Michelle Kimsey is an assistant professor at Texas Christian University's Harris College of Nursing and Health Services. She also serves as a member of the West Center's Dementia Education Advisory Council, which consists of representatives from the healthcare, education, government, and social services sectors. Ms. Kimsey is skilled in dementia training and clinical research and has trusted the West Center's educators to train her students in dementia care.
Wow, the West Center has done an exceptional job making their courses and their education and training easy to access. Because it's so easy accessible, and West Center is the gold standard for dementia care, therefore the great results of dementia care come from dementia education and training. Whether they're going in to provide care for the older adult or med-surg or babies, they are aware that having that dementia care education on their resume starts a conversation. Students will tell me that it's made them stand out. I reached out to James L. West because it's known, it's the gold standard for dementia care. And it's known not just here in Fort Worth, it is really overwhelming nationally too. It is the one place I knew that had the experts and the experience that I was looking for.
Collaboration and partnerships are important ingredients in the recipe for success of the center's programs. The West Center developed a strong service partnership with the North Central Texas Council of Governments to reach persons 60 plus and their families in the 14 counties surrounding DFW.
In the rural communities in particular, oftentimes there are not a lot of supports. The type of information and education that the West Center provides is not readily available. So it's been a great partnership, taking their programs that historically have served people in the Fort Worth community and making them available through a much broader region. The West programs being available at no cost allows them to receive the information, and also the fact that the West Center is a nonprofit makes a huge difference. There are a lot of people with great services, but oftentimes the motivation is profit, and obviously that's not what drives the West Center.
Service to the community is an important part of the program's delivery, but equally important is service to the West Center's current and former families. Michael Hoslauer appreciates the services of the Caregiver Education Program as he began his journey with James L. West as a day program family and transitioning to become a resident family. Michael didn't know what he didn't know. It's not unusual for anyone caring for a dementia loved one to feel lost, confused, helpless, and frustrated. He learned that there are millions of people in his position, and he found comfort that as his life was changing, the James L. West Center was right by his side.
Started right off. I didn't know, for instance, it was the first time anyone had suggested to me that dementia was a terminal illness. First question I asked is, what's the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's? Which you think is like, that's just rudimentary knowledge, but it wasn't for me. I've been able to pass on some of the knowledge I've gained through mine and Bonnie's journey, and that's been very rewarding as well. In order to be able to give back, and that's within the caregivers group. Very supportive group of people. We also discuss self-care, which is very important. You ignore your own health concerns in dealing with the health concerns of your loved one. I hadn't been to the dentist in 5 years. My own personal self-care were falling by the wayside. So it's not uncommon for the caregiver to pass away before the one they're caring for because of issues like this. And in focusing on those really helped me to focus on my own personal self-care.
As the number of older Americans increases, so will the number of caregivers needed to provide care and who will need both resources and supports to be successful. The need for education and support for families and communities living with dementia is not going away, and the West Center will continue to be the go-to trusted provider for specialized education for caregivers, healthcare professionals, and the community at large.
Sid Richardson Foundation is very proud to partner with the West Center in delivering that program, helping folks who need it so much.
We're extremely grateful for the Sid Richardson Foundation, Val Wilkie and Pete Guerin that were integral parts in seeing the need and taking action and helping us provide the need for the community.
Today and always, we stand by our pledge to provide hope for the journey. We pledge to be your partner in care.